few years ago, when the Naruto manga ran weekly in Weekly Shonen Jump, the death of Neji Hyuga shocked a lot of fans. In hindsight, Neji's death, while sad, can be described as a beautiful death since he died of his own free will, choosing to give his life for the heir of the Hyuga clan. It was the caged bird finally breaking free of his cage. In the subsequent manga chapters, we get a small glimpse into how Neji's death affected the various members of the Konoha 11. In today's video, I'm going to share with you all Shikamaru's thoughts on Neji's death and how years after it ended, Neji's death still haunted Shikamaru. Almost 2 years after Neji died, which caused Hinata to stop twiddling her thumbs and smack some sense into the ninja Jesus Christ of the Naruto universe, Naruto Uzumaki himself, the death of Neji Hyuga was still prevalent in the minds of his peers. In the Shikamaru Hidden novel, Shikamaru's story, A Cloud Drifting Silent in the Dark, we get a very raw scene with Shikamaru. It's in this scene where Shikamaru is reflecting on his journey as a ninja, placing a great deal of emphasis on his first failure as a Chunin, which ironically almost saw Neji die on the mission to retrieve Sasuke. Now, I know some of you guys might ask, why wasn't this in the Naruto Shippuden anime adaptation for the Shikamaru novel? Like I've said on many numerous occasions, the anime adaptations for each of the 5 novels that it did changed a lot of scenes from the original source material and bypassed scenes like the one I'm going to share with you all in the name of introducing anime exclusive filler for each of the anime arcs. So with that being said, I'll begin reading the passage from the novel, and as I read, I want you guys to pay close attention to the language that Shikamaru uses, because it's his word choice that gives us great insight into his emotional mind state at this point in the series. And it's here that I'm going to begin quoting. Even one death was still a death. It was too many. Even one unavoidable sacrifice. In the Great War, he lost a friend, Neji Hyuga. To Shikamaru, Neji was not just a number. His friend's death was everything. The same could be said for any one of the people lost in the war. He felt the death of a single person could never be fully explained in a single word like sacrifice. It was why another war could not be allowed to break out again. End quote. Now, I know on the surface level you might be asking, what about this makes Neji's death hit Shikamaru so deeply? And it's here I want to draw your attention to the words sacrifice and loss. And in order to fully understand this passage and how it speaks volumes about Shikamaru's mindset, we must look at this passage not from a fan perspective, but instead we must look at it through the scope of a writer. In literature, the usage of words means much more than just a combination that is used to make a statement for the author. Words are the lifeblood of a story, but they're also codependent on each other. And what I mean is this. Looking at the first word that stands out, which is loss, when this word is first used, it is the only word in the sentence that has a deep vowel sound, whereas the sentence that Shikamaru uses sacrifice, it is only one of many. Writers tend to use words that have a deep vowel sound, like a O in this case, because they're trying to draw out an emotional connection to the character or create a very strong sense of scenery, albeit either emotional atmosphere or the actual physical landscape itself. Only by using a deep vowel sound like in the word loss, it isolates the word, keeping it all to itself. And this is key, since this passage is literally Shikamaru's internal monologue where he is alone in his own thoughts. This brings us to the usage of the word sacrifice. There are no deep vowel sounds in the word itself, but the same sentence, you have a deep vowel sound being used 4 times, and in the following, we have it being used 6 times in the next sentence. In the sentence where sacrifice is used, the deep vowel sound is used repeatedly as if it's a slow beating drum leading up to a conclusion, which is fitting since sacrifice is the last word that's used in the sentence. When you look at it closely, it almost creates a sense of foreboding because the deep vowel sound of the O is used to reflect on the dark and brooding nature of Shikamaru's thoughts very early in the novel when he thinks about death, which in itself is a very dark subject matter. Then we have to move on to the next sentence where he says another war cannot happen. The use of the deep vowel sound occurs 6 times, which highlights how important this is to Shikamaru as a character. He's grown very weary of death, of the pain that comes from losing someone. Early in this scene, Shikamaru thought of how he felt as a Chunin, nearly getting his team lost, with the keyword being nearly. Shikamaru was lost in the moment after this, and he doubted himself as a ninja. It's during this time that Shikamaru's true start of his ninja journey began, because he realized the darkness that comes with being a ninja, and in particular with being a Chunin. Shikamaru then reflected on losing Asuma. It was the first time that Shikamaru actually experienced losing someone very close to him, feeling the true pain that comes from walking the dark path of the shinobi. When Asuma died, there were 4 members of Team 10 on that rooftop after Hidan and Kakuzu left. The 4 members being Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, and Asuma himself, the team leader. Asuma's death forever tied the 4 of them together, stitching one final bit of wisdom into each of their minds, and before Asuma died, he died peacefully. However, most importantly, Asuma bequeathed Shikamaru a wish to be the teacher to his daughter Mira. This is very fitting because it has a deep vowel sound being used 4 times, which you could say represents each of the members of Team Asuma. Finally, the usage of the deep vowel sound that occurs in the final sentence directly ties back to the first sentence and to Shikamaru as a character. The word lost is the only deep vowel sound used in that sentence. Shikamaru was lost after his first Chunin mission. He's lost in his thoughts before accepting his first real mission on the Kakashi. However, it's been 5, going on 6 years since the Sasuke retrieval mission. The reflection of the death of Neji, which Shikamaru placed above the thousands of ninja and innocent civilians who died during the war, is what caused Shikamaru to go from being lost to being found. The last sentence is his final thoughts before he begins asking for intel on the Land of Silence, a group who posed a potential threat of breaking the peace that existed between nations, which might lead to another ninja war, which Shikamaru hoped to prevent. Neji's death is one of the fueling factors for Shikamaru going from being lost in his thinking, which is why he came to the conclusion that Shikamaru wanted to avoid having another Neji Hyuga die in the future, which is ironic, given that his mission is an assassination mission to kill the one who's behind the disappearing ninja. This video is a bit different than my usual ones, since this looks at the information more from a craft perspective than from an in-universe perspective. However, I felt it was important to bring up the literary devices that were used, like repetition, like vowel sounds, their placement, and the increased usage of each to highlight Shikamaru's mindset during this portion of the novel where Neji Hyuga is mentioned. I know I have a bunch of younger viewers, so dissecting this passage uses skills that you tend to learn more so towards the end of high school and the beginning of college, in particular in your literature courses, and it might be a bit too much for some of you guys, but if you all want more, I'll be sure to incorporate more of this in future videos. As always, I hope you guys learned something new. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Have an awesome day, guys.